All right. So, starting your own company, were you high? Like,
Yes.
what in the hell were you thinking?
Well, I mean, I was a little bit during that, but no, it's one of the things you said. I've always wanted to get into game design. When I was at Lucas, I fought my way into trying to be a creative director, and the guy who's currently like the head of narrative for the Halo series, Halo Infinite, Joe McDonough. I really didn't give up wanting to get into game design, and I frustrated the shit out of that poor guy. I know I did. He was very kind to me. And at one point he stopped me and he's like, "You're like a fucking dog with a bone. Like, I will not let it go." Over time, I think since then, because that was a decade ago, I've softened on that because I started to see how these things needed to be. I want to make my own games and I'm going to get there. But the problem is that the kind of games I want to make and the kind of people that I want to see make games don't have the power to make the games they want to make. And it's across the board. Some brilliant, including Joe, everyone I know who's a great game developer has these ideas that they have a brilliant idea and then they try to work it back into a business model that simply doesn't allow the game to stay the way that they want it to, and it's compromising. And I started to learn, and I really learned it at Lucas, I think harshly, that you can be that creative guy, but then you're at the whim of whoever the fuck's in charge. Or you can find a way to become that guy in charge and empower people who are better at it than you are. And I can find out a way to be a game designer afterwards. And I think that's the route I've ended up taking. When I worked for James Cameron, my job, I was vice president. I was not a small guy. I was not small in that totem pole. Jim doesn't hire a lot of people full time. It was a big deal, my position there. And it gave me a chance to be that person, to find the right developers. And I did not take it lightly. The team at Ubisoft, and I was not a big fan of Ubisoft at the time, a lot of the games they were doing, but the team at Massive Studios, under the tutelage and leadership of David Pofelt, Pither Sidau, and Soundboy, they're some of the more, and the entire team, I know I'm leaving out a lot of names, it's just the three that I got probably the closest with. They're exceptional talents at making games, just beyond words. And it was this moment that it clicked for me that, like, now that I've worked my way into being that person who can choose who the great developers are, I can have the power to force a contract to be a certain way. I can force a business model that I think is better for the game, that doesn't allow X or Y inside of it. And it was positive. And I when that Avatar game comes out, I have every hope that they were able to keep to most of the vision that we had. But it's one of the reasons I also left. Starbreeze came along, gave me that chance to be that person again. And I could push games through. I was in charge of all VR games. I was in charge of partnerships. I did some publishing deals. I speaking of being friends with Tim Schafer, at one point, Tim, they were not in a great place. They needed to finish Psychonauts 2 and didn't have the cash. And I love Tim, and I love Psychonauts, and I love the entire team at Double Fine. And I saw this post somewhere that they were talking about how they were out looking for a publisher and it wasn't going great. And I was just like, hey, you want to talk? And Starbreeze was able to get them through that. Now, granted, Starbreeze ended up falling apart, but getting them through that, helping them get to that final point where Microsoft ultimately bought them and put them in a position to finish the game under their original vision, being able to be a small part of that is like one of my great honors. And that's what a lot of what I see when it came to Nor, and the sort of emotion behind why I wanted to be in charge, because I don't like being in charge. I tell everyone at the company this. I fucking hate it.
Say it all the time.
I fucking hate it.
All the time.
I hate being in charge because, there's the stress of being in charge. I've handled stress, like all of that. I don't like being in charge because I want to be able to just go create things, and I have a lot of responsibility to make sure everyone's lights are staying on. I have people who depend on me, which is fine. It's frustrating to not be able to be a creative free spirit. But I've been able to hire extraordinarily talented people in every way. And every week, everyone's going to get a chance to meet one of the people I decided to bring in at the founding level. But even beyond that, the people who are like leading our game design team, Mark, people who are leading our artwork, people who are leading our Web3, people who are leading our community, these people who I know have exceptional, sort of not just work ethic, but thought process when it comes to building, who I know can do something great, this is my chance to empower them to do the thing they've always wanted. And as long as I can keep doing my job by keeping that larger ship, build this ecosystem, get this thing in place, we'll end up able to do it for a lot more developers, a lot more creatives, and I think a lot more players. If we can get people to that point, like literally that feels like almost my point of life. Like it's the reason I was here, is doing this project if we can get it out the door.